Weekend revelations that perhaps hundreds of Palestinian civilians were massacred in West Beirut. Lebanese Christian militiamen were blamed for that slaughter. Word of the murderous rampage brought swift world condemnation. Many held Israel responsible for not preventing it. Egypt, for example, today ordered home its ambassador to Israel. Our coverage begins with Bill Plant at the White House.
At a meeting this morning with his foreign policy advisors, the president discussed options for dealing with the slaughter in Lebanon. He made the choice favored by most of his aides to send American troops back to Beirut at the request of the Lebanese government. And late this afternoon, he announced his decision in a nationwide broadcast.
I have consulted with our French and Italian allies. We have agreed to form a new multinational force similar to the one which served so well last month, with the mission of enabling the Lebanese government to resume full sovereignty over its capital, the essential precondition for extending its control over the entire country.
800 U.S. Marines left Lebanon only 10 days ago. Officials say they can be back in about 72 hours. The Israeli cabinet must first give its approval. That's expected tomorrow. Mr. Reagan pledged that U.S. troops would not act as a police force. Once again, he promised they would remain in Lebanon only for a limited period of time. And he issued a strong warning to Israel that it must withdraw from West Beirut.
Unless Israel moves quickly and courageously to withdraw, it will find itself ever more deeply involved in problems that are not its own and which it cannot solve.
The whole idea of the peacekeeping force could collapse if the Israelis refuse to cooperate. But part of the reason the president went on television this afternoon was to send the Israelis a message they can't ignore. Mr. Reagan and his advisors still believe that it's possible to put enough pressure on Jerusalem to get out of Beirut and eventually out of Lebanon. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Here in Congress, most reaction was supportive, but with great reservation and worry. However, from some came warnings of dire consequences.
Let us understand that we're going right into the fire in this one. You're going into Beirut, where snipers can operate with impunity.
The president has made a momentous decision, which I hope he will not live to regret. I think it was a mistake. Could well lead us into a Vietnam-like quagmire in Lebanon.
Senator Pell, ranking Democrat on foreign relations, supported the president, but with reservations and irritation with Prime Minister Begin.
I think it's dangerous, and I think he's going too far.
You think he's dangerous?
I think he's dangerous, yes, in the sense that as the leadership of his government is not a government that seems directed towards peace in the area.
That attitude towards Begin and the Israeli government is shared by many here in Congress. In fact, there are many who would like to slap an immediate arms embargo on Israel. But there's a fear that this would only drive a further wedge between the United States and Israel and make it even more difficult for the U.S. to achieve its ultimate goal, which is to get all foreign forces out of Lebanon. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
A little-known terrorist group that has vowed to drive all foreigners from Lebanon today claimed responsibility for the mass killings. An anonymous caller to a Beirut newspaper said such actions would continue. The horror of the Beirut massacre was relived today as Red Cross workers and Lebanese volunteers began the grim task of removing bodies. Doug Donnell is in Beirut.
On the edge of Shatila camp, the dead are buried with little formality in common graves. About 75 have been laid to rest in this cemetery. 24 members of a single family perished. The overall toll for Friday's massacre just keeps growing. Rescue work has only just begun. They burn pine needles to reduce the stench of death here. 4 days after the shooting stopped, you can still see the fear in people's faces. Fear that it could happen again. Everywhere around Shatila now, they ask the questions. Is it safe? Did you see any gunmen on the road? Daily, there are rumors that the killers have returned. Several hundred Lebanese and Palestinians gathered outside the residence of a local Muslim leader today to ask for his protection. The Lebanese army has surrounded the Palestinian neighborhoods of West Beirut, but there are many who fear even the army is not powerful enough to keep a hostile militia unit at bay. A number of unidentified gunmen were seen and photographed near Shatila camp on Friday afternoon while the killing was underway. Their uniforms had no obvious markings. It was then that this woman approached two Israeli soldiers to beg for their help. They are coming into the shelters, she told them, and even killing children. The Israelis said they had heard the reports and had already told their superiors. It is known that Israel permitted a right-wing Christian militia unit to cross into West Beirut late last week. Their route was clearly marked by these symbols on the walls. The militiamen passed through the Israeli-controlled Beirut airport and were not detained at this Israeli checkpoint. At this intersection, the arrows veer off the main road to West Beirut and up this hill. It is the main thoroughfare leading to Shatila refugee camp, where the massacre occurred. Some Israeli units have withdrawn from West Beirut, but any Lebanese will tell you the Israelis are still in charge here, just as they were on Friday afternoon. Doug Tennell, CBS News, West Beirut.
The massacre in Beirut also has provoked some protests in Israel. Outside Prime Minister Begin's Jerusalem home yesterday, demonstrators expressed their outrage at the killings, and there were even more violent protests in Israel last night as demonstrators clashed with police. There were several arrests. More on Israel's reaction from Bob Faw in Tel Aviv.
The Begin government doesn't think that bringing back that multinational force will make much of a difference in West Beirut, but it's in such hot water with Washington now, it's not inclined to make much of a fuss about the proposal or about anything which might diminish the controversy swirling over the West Beirut massacre.
The massacre has left Israel in an uproar. In protest, shops throughout the West Bank shut down today. Angry Arab teenagers threw rocks at Israeli troops. And opposition political leader Peres said both Mr. Begin and Defense Chief Sharon should resign because, said Peres, they let the wolves in with the chickens.
Even if they in person are not involved in the event or its development, they still remain responsible for the events that took place.
And there were new demonstrations tonight against the government's presence in West Beirut. The complaint here is not just that Israel bungled its role as a self-appointed policeman in the area, but that the Israeli military ignored warnings a massacre was possible and moved too slowly once the massacre began. Today, a senior government official said once the forces did find out, they intervened immediately. But camp entrances were not sealed until Saturday, even though the country's most respected military correspondent says the Army knew something was up on Thursday, and even though on Friday, Communications Minister Zipori passed along reports of the atrocities. Tonight, a military official conceded the Army did know about the trouble on Thursday, well before Israeli forces moved in.
We're all human, and we were caught off guard. We simply did not take into consideration that something like this could happen.
Still, for many, the most troubling question is why Israel let so many armed Lebanese into the camp in the first place. In Jerusalem, a senior official said the Lebanese unit was disciplined and that we expected them to remove terrorists, not slaughter civilians, adding that Israeli soldiers did not see what happened because it was dark and they weren't in the camps, and that gunfire was not considered suspicious because the Israelis thought it was directed at terrorists. Today, both that official and the Lebanese Army Command denied that the forces of Major Saad Haddad, Israel's ally in southern Lebanon, were involved in the massacre, and Haddad denied it again too.
I confirm that we don't have any link in what happened in Beirut.
Despite all the denials and the government's condemnation again today of what happened, one official here put it, our big problem now is trying to convince the world that a country as vigilant as Israel could let something like this happen. Dan?
Bob, could it be that the Begin government privately is pleased and relieved that President Reagan is sending the Marines back into Lebanon?
No, not really. The Marines were there before, say, the Israelis, and when the Marines were there, the PLO stockpiled arms, forged identities, and stayed on. No miracles when the Marines were here before, and they don't expect miracles this time.
Do you sense that this is some turning point for Israel?
Well, I think there's a tendency to say at every crisis like this, it could be a turning point. It's probably too early. There is embarrassment here that it happened because, after all, Israel said it went in to prevent this sort of thing from happening. There is alarm that the world is blaming Israel. There's a great deal of revulsion as well, and a feeling that Israel is sinking deeper and deeper into the quagmire. We should make it clear, however, that there is no sign that the Begin government is in a great deal of trouble. In fact, every indication is the Begin government will weather the storm.
Thank you very much, Bob Faw in Tel Aviv. The Egyptian government's ordering home of its ambassador to Israel, which we reported earlier, was the most serious diplomatic breach between the two countries since relations were established a year and a half ago. The Cairo government said that when the terrible crimes in Lebanon are over, that's a direct quote, the ambassador would be returned. Soviet President Brezhnev, in a message to President Reagan, laid partial blame for the Beirut massacre on the United States. Brezhnev urged joint U.S.-Soviet action to, quote, bridle Israel. Amin Gemayel is virtually certain to be elected by Lebanon's parliament tomorrow as the country's new president. He is the brother of assassinated President-elect Bashir Gemayel.
Polydent presents Martha Ray, stage star, denture wearer.
When I have to give an audience my big Martha Ray smile, I need something extra. Extra strength Polydent Green. It gets my dentures sparkling clean. Watch, tough lab stains. Now, extra strength Polydent. It's fantastic. Gets tough stains clean, even in between. So take it from a big mouth. Try Polydent Green. Get tough stains clean with extra strength.
Surprise! It's Sears' 96th anniversary sale with store-wide savings. You'll cheer the $300 savings on this 7-day programmable video recorder with remote control beta scan, now only $599.95. Or save 25% on this Norelco clean air machine that quietly helps filter indoor air. Zoom lens binoculars bring things closer for only $49.99, while you save a spectacular $40. For a store brimming over with birthday buys, you can count on Sears.
Tonight's game between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers may be the last live National Football League action you'll see for a while. The executive committee of the NFL Players Association today voted unanimously to strike after that game. Gene Upshaw, president of the Players Union, announced the first in-season disruption in the NFL's 63-year history. The players are demanding 50% of television revenues. And Eric Ingberg reports that from television's corporate towers to the corner saloon, it's one big broken play.
4, 3, 2, rolling.
With the prospect of a Black Sunday looming, the TV industry is scrambling like a quarterback facing the blitz. Most of pro football's revenue comes not from the fan in the stands, but from payments by the networks to the National Football League for broadcast rights. Under the lucrative $2 billion 5-year agreement signed last spring, the NFL stands to lose $17 million in TV money alone every week the game is shut down. The networks expect to lose viewers and advertising dollars, but since they don't have to pay for games they don't broadcast, some analysts say the networks will cut their losses.
Whatever they can put in that same time period in the way of programming will be a great deal cheaper to produce than the football package. And as a result, even though the revenues are going to be a great deal less too, they'll probably actually make more money.
To fill the NFL gap, CBS is still trying to get major college games moved to Sunday, but hasn't made any deals yet. This week, the network will rerun NFL action from last year. ABC, instead of Monday Night Football, will offer Monday Night Movies. And NBC heads north to Canada, where the ball is the same, but the field is 110 yards long and 12 men play on a side. You Toronto Argonaut fans will be heartened to know that the Argonauts versus British Columbia game is on tap for this Sunday's doubleheader. They don't care much about the Argonauts at the Gristmill Tavern outside Cleveland, where fans gather every week to follow the Browns. Here and in countless taverns across the country, the strike will be felt.
It'll probably cost us $1,000 a week that the Browns don't play or the NFL doesn't play.
Another American tradition will be desecrated, betting on football. Hundreds of millions bet every season in Las Vegas, untold billions probably gambled around the country.
I could compare it to U.S. Steel, that's how big it is.
The striking players will lose their weekly game check, $1,400 for the lowest paid, up to $37,000 a game for big stars. And the supporting cast for Sunday, part-timers and students, will also feel it.
Average around $60 to $100 a game, and it's a pretty good part-time job.
Also hit many local governments, which will have to look for ways to pay off their stadiums. Erie County, New York, where the Buffalo Bills play, will lose $100,000 on every canceled game. But in Miami, the losses are covered. The city bought strike insurance. As for fans, they are taking it in the neck, and they know it.
Hey, forget about the fans. You know, we got a stake in this, too. If it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be either one of those two.
Management and labor profess concern over a possible fan backlash, but the two sides know too well that baseball fans once threatened to boycott their strike-torn sport, then went back to the parks in record numbers. Eric Engberg, CBS News, New York.
Why do you prefer Preparation H?
I find Preparation H being extremely effective in reducing my hemorrhoidal symptoms of pain, itch, and swelling.
That's right. Preparation H often gives temporary relief from pain and itch flare-ups, even helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues.
Yes. When I haven't been able to get Preparation H, I've been forced to use other products, and I've always gone back to Preparation H. I am sold on Preparation H.
Preparation H relieves pain and itch, even helps shrink swelling.
I know this Hart's 2-in-1 plus reflecting flea and tick collar really saved my cat's life, because I was driving the car that almost hit her. I was about a half a block from home. I don't know how she got out, but all of a sudden I saw a bright glow up the street. Her Hart's collar was reflecting my headlights. Thank goodness I had time to stop. Cats really need nighttime safety. Plus, they get 5 months of flea and tick protection, all from the Hart's 2-in-1 Plus reflecting collar. Now the famous Hart's flea and tick killer can be a lifesaver, too.
President Reagan today called on Congress to halt the 2-day-old nationwide rail strike. The president acted after talks collapsed today between the railroads and the engineers union. A federal mediator reported no reasonable prospect of settling issues involving wage differentials and a no-strike pledge. Congressional leaders promised hearings on the president's request tomorrow. The engineers union said it would abide by any congressional mandate, but as Frank Courier reports, the strike's effects already are being felt.
On the West Coast, Monday morning commuters in San Carlos, California, waited for trains that never came. In Chicago, most of the waiting was on crowded expressways and subway platforms as more than 120,000 suburban commuters without train service scrambled to find alternate transportation.
Don't want to go through this again. Too inconvenient.
In its second day, more than 300,000 railroad workers are honoring the strike by locomotive engineers. A strike which already has forced the wholesale shutdown of Amtrak passenger trains south of Washington and west of Chicago. A strike that is threatening the nation's economy, disrupting the movement of freight on more than 100 railroads coast to coast. The country's largest freight hauler is running at 20% capacity with supervisory engineers.
They are operating trains that tend to be concentrated in those areas that are higher priority in terms of human need, if you will.
The Federal Railroad Administration says the strike is costing the country nearly $90 million a day in lost goods and services. And over a prolonged period, the ripple effect could see massive layoffs in states that depend on basic heavy industrial materials. In Omaha and throughout the Midwest, grain dealers are now evaluating the impact of an extended strike.
If the rail strike would extend into the first weeks of October, when we will start to see some movement of new crop soybeans, it could have a negative effect on our business cycle.
While the railroads are moving fruits and vegetables on a priority basis, a shortage of freight cars in Salinas, California, prompted lettuce growers to load their crop aboard refrigerated trucks instead. But the lifeline to the nation's farms and factories may soon be restored. With the president now asking Congress to impose a settlement, there is hope, even for the restless commuter, who must still get to work tomorrow by whatever means possible. Frank Courier, CBS News, Chicago.
A case of deja vu today in the Senate. Conservatives tried again and failed again to break a filibuster by moderates and liberals. The issue this time, putting voluntary prayer back in the public schools. Conservatives were 10 votes short and will try again tomorrow. But even if they succeed in choking off the filibuster, moderates and liberals say they have an array of other delaying tactics to use.
Do you know what our biggest nutritional problem is? It's far more common than any vitamin deficiency. It's iron-poor blood. To protect you, Geritol has 50 milligrams of iron, and that's more than one a day. Theragram and Unicaps combined, and much more than Centrum and Stress Tabs. Geritol has critical B and C vitamins, but most important, it's specially formulated to ensure against America's major nutritional problem, iron-poor blood. Geritol, to protect you.
Your business machines say a lot about the way you do business. Quick. Right. Canon's NP400F delivers 40 letter-sized copies in a minute. Consider it done. Responds with reduction, even enlargement. Keeps you organized with a document feeder and optional sorter. Attaboy. The Canon NP400F system copier. Technology that keeps you going. Call toll-free for information or contact your authorized Canon dealer.
With the onset of the flu season not far off, the Reagan administration today proposed both product label warnings and broadcast warnings about giving aspirin to certain children. The warning that a link is suspected between the use of aspirin by some children with viruses and the development of Reye's syndrome, a sometimes fatal disease. Some scientists and the aspirin industry object to the warnings. They say the link to Reye's syndrome is based on faulty data. The Agriculture Department gave in and gave up today on its attempt to change beef grading standards. Essentially, the proposed changes would have allowed beef with less fat or marbling to qualify for USDA prime, choice, and good categories. The critics' beef was that consumers would be paying the same money for lower quality meat, and as it turned out, they prevailed. Applications for the lottery in the state of Maine came from as far away as California and Saudi Arabia, and the winners are enjoying an unusual prize. As Bill O'Reilly reports, it's a chance to make a killing.
There are at least 20,000 moose roaming the woods in northern Maine, but by the end of this week, that number will be reduced by 1,000. For just the second time in 37 years, the Maine legislature has okayed a moose hunt. 1,000 one-kill-only permits were issued by lottery, and today at daybreak, hunters took to the woods. It didn't take them long to find their game.
One shot, clean kill.
The six-day moose hunt is creating controversy. Some Maine residents are very upset that female moose with calves are being gunned down.
I drove by this morning at 7:15, and I saw the two calves of this cow running across the road. They come here every morning to feed. I'm sorry.
Hunters, of course, see things differently.
It's an animal. It's like a piece of beef. You kill it to eat it.
More than 60,000 people applied for permits to hunt the moose, and opponents collected 35,000 signatures protesting the hunt on the grounds that Maine moose are so tame, hunting them isn't sport, it's slaughter.
The moose has become accustomed to people. It's not very bright, and it doesn't have good vision. It will walk right up to you. You can take its picture, or you can stand there and shoot it.
It's not a slaughter. It's a hunt. They're going out there pursuing the animals in the wild. It may be a little different from deer hunting or elk hunting, as I said before, but it's not a slaughter.
As it stands now, the Maine moose hunt could be an annual event, but opponents say they will organize next year with one specific goal in mind, a statewide referendum on the moose hunt issue. Bill O'Reilly, CBS News, Greenville, Maine.
West German physicist Ulf Merbold was named by NASA today to be the first non-American aboard a space shuttle flight, the first flight to include the European-built Space Lab. U.S. Space Shuttle Shot 9 is slated for launch a year from now. Two business surveys out tonight point to more gloom on the job market, even for some who have a job. A nationwide survey by the largest temporary employment agency, Manpower Incorporated, finds only 18% of employers planning to hire more workers in the fourth quarter of this year. Another 14% plan more layoffs. All told, says Manpower, it's the worst fourth quarter employment outlook since the survey began in 1976. A second survey, this one by the business-sponsored Conference Board, says almost 1 out of 10 manufacturing firms cut executive salaries in the first half of this year. 1 out of 5 froze those salaries. The Commerce Department today reported that Americans' personal income rose just 0.3% for the month of August. That's the smallest increase since March. And analysts said that the gain probably was offset by inflation.
Working seems to go much better. You seem to go much better when you share your day together. Maxwell House and you get that good to the last drop feeling with Maxwell House. Only Maxwell House gives you good to the last drop feeling. Maxwell House.
I told him I needed an outdoor paint that was durable. He said Moorguard, Benjamin Moore's latex house paint. That Benjamin Moore dealer, he really knows his paint.
I asked him to match this color exactly. He said, with Regal Wall satin, I can match any color. That Benjamin Moore dealer, he really knows his paint.
He really does know his paint. It's his business. See him for top quality Benjamin Moore paints.
That Benjamin Moore dealer, he really knows his paint.
Beautiful women of the world, beautiful women of the world, with beautiful skin, created by Pond's.
Pond's Cold Cream. It's It's the beautiful cleanser that helps make women beautiful, because it deep cleans skin and softens skin so beautifully.
Beautiful women of the world with beautiful skin created by Pond's.
The wanton murders of Palestinian civilians, including women and children in the West Beirut refugee camps, has deeply shocked the world that, until now, thought it had seen just about everything. That massacre is the subject of Bill Moyer's commentary tonight.
There is a double standard in the world, thank God. Some governments cannot get away with conduct normal to others. In a closed society, morality is what the state says it is. So the Soviets have no qualms about making a prison of Poland and a slaughterhouse of Afghanistan, and then thundering indignation toward the killing of innocents in Lebanon. If the United Nations had met today to denounce what happened this weekend at the Shatila and Sabra camps, many of the votes would have come from representatives of the most repressive regimes in the world. What happened ought to be condemned. It was a terrible and vile demonstration of man's inhumanity to man, all the more sickening because it was committed by fanatics who have turned the very name Christian into a coin of fraud and malice. For the sake of expediency, they enjoy the embrace of an Israel whose very existence was inspired by the vision of a refuge from atrocity. That confuses even more. But there is nothing convincing about the censure spewing now from those nations which are silent about their own crimes, or even from the United States, whose politicians go on increasing military aid to Israel with few strings attached. No, the voice deserving to be heard today belongs to those Israelis who expect their nation to live by a higher standard. They jammed the highway from Haifa to Tel Aviv this weekend to protest the massacres in Lebanon. They marched on Mr. Begin's own neighborhood, saying this is wrong, this must not be. Their government has made the mistake America made in Vietnam. It turned loose forces it cannot control, for purposes it is not sure of. And so it has aroused at home that strong and moral imagination which draws a line between right and wrong as old as Mount Sinai. This play of conscience is a troubling thing to governments, and many put it down. An open society must live with it, and thus cannot behave as others might. This is the curse of democracies and their saving grace.
Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Begin said he will consider formation of a board of inquiry to look into what happened at those 2 Beirut refugee camps. And that's the CBS Evening News for this Monday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
In the race to office automation, some will wait for tomorrow. But for those who choose Wang, today, it'll be business in the fast lane. Because Wang has the computer technology and worldwide resources to automate your entire office now. The choice is yours. Ignore the inevitable or race boldly into the future with Wang, the office automation computer company.
Surprise! It's Sears' 96th anniversary sale with store-wide savings. Celebrate by saving on our sofa sleepers, like this comfortable Ashcroft sleeper featuring $100 savings, or $40 to $190 on these sets of Sears Deluxe and Sears Orthopedic Elegance bedding. Welcome the savings of $90 on this microwave oven with electronic touch controls, whole meal cooking, and temperature probe. For a store brimming over with birthday buys, you can count on Sears.
Sawyer, a talk with Arthur Laffer, pioneer of supply-side economics, and a preview of the new TV season from Pat Collins. Tomorrow on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.